Hey, everybody, I'm John Granato. You can hear me mornings on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5, and that's Josh Jordan. You're going to hear him weekends on Moneyline on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, please do so you get all of our content here at SportsMap HOU. Hey, Josh, an injury-plagued season, rough postseason at the plate. There's got to be some concern about Alex Bregman. You think Bregman bounces back next year, or do you thinking that the Astros brass should be a little bit worried about where he's at?
I know where you stand on this. I heard you talking to Lance about it the other day. I'm going to go the other way and say I just think it's a year where injuries, I think that really slowed down Bregman. His legs were bothering him. He tried to put on all that muscle in the offseason, and then he had leg issues all year. I kind of liken it to, like a running back that puts on like 10 or 15 pounds of muscle in the offseason, and then he's too slow when he comes into camp. Like, I feel like maybe Bregman, he's such a hard-working guy. Maybe he did a little too much with his leg workouts. He was injured all year. And I'd rather have a guy that cares, that's always trying to improve himself, that, is trying to physically be better. So I think with the COVID year was short. We saw a lot of guys struggle with injuries this year when they went back to the regular season. I'm going to put it on that and say I think Bregman will be okay. I just think he's got to get healthy. And it was a long year for him. He got married, the COVID stuff, the cheating stuff coming out the last year or so. I think he'll bounce back.
Yeah, we just had Peter Gammons on our show, and he's worried about Bregman. He's not the same guy. He's not the same. He doesn't have that same cockiness. That's the guy that carried his bat to first base against the Nationals. And ever since then, he was berated by AJ. He kind of went into a bit of a shell, and he's just not been that same guy. I just don't feel teams are fearing Alex Bregman at the plate the way that they used to, and for good reason. He just hasn't been that same guy. I don't know that he can capture that bravado once again, because that was a huge, huge part of his game, and I'm not sure. And after this year, Josh, next year he gets 12, then he gets 30, then he gets 30. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's making a hell of a lot of money, and maybe because of that money that he's going to be owed and that Altuve is going to be making as well, maybe that's a big reason Correa's not here, won't be here, is because that big money that you're paying to those two guys. So not only will he not be producing offensively possibly, but he's also preventing you from keeping Carlos Correa.
Totally fair. And if obviously I'd rather have Carlos at this point and then Bregman, but it's such a short sample size, right? Like, we're prisoners of the moment a little bit there. I went back and I looked at Bregman's stats this postseason. I looked at him last postseason, and he seemed to kind of get off to a hot start. He actually played well in these early playoff series, the division series and stuff like that. And then as the playoffs wore on, it seemed like he got wore down a little bit. He didn't play as well in the ALCS and stuff like that. So I just wonder if it's a health thing, and if he can get that straightened out, I think he'll be okay.
Yep, I know what I'm okay, because I got cold, clean, crisp, refreshing Coors Light. It's the world's most refreshing beer. If you're looking for a great way to watch your games, a great way to play golf, a great way to play poker. I don't know what it is that you like to do. I know what I like to do, those things, and I like a cold, clean, crisp, refreshing Coors Light when I do it. It's the world's most refreshing beer. Check it out. Bregman's going to be a free agent after those two $30 million years. Josh, we've seen Springer go. We're looking at Carlos Correa going. Yuli is not long for this world. Jose Altuve is getting older. Bregman may be the last. Bregman may be the last of that infield that's played more postseason games together than any four players ever. I think there's a chance. That he and Altuve might be the last ones and walk out the door after 2025, and you're opening up that money for Tucker. You're opening up that money for Alvarez. You're opening up that money for possibly Pedro Leon or Jeremy Pena or any of these young guys. And certainly Garcia's got to get paid, Urquidy's going to get paid, Fromber's going to get paid. So I think there's a good chance that we may be, after these 3 years, maybe seeing the last of Alex Bregman.
I'm with you. I think he'll be 31 years old when his contract's up. And I would rather give that money to, Tucker or somebody in their 20s. And you and I talked about this on another video a few weeks ago, if, which person I'd rather give the money to, because we talked about if we pay Carlos, how are you going to pay Bregman when his contract's up? Are you just going to let Altuve walk out the door? For me now, I'd rather pay a 27-year-old Carlos Correa than an extension to a 31-year-old Alex Bregman. You got to earmark that money for the young guys, and that's the way baseball works, right? Next guy up gets paid.
Absolutely. You're going to have to replace Brantley. Is center field answered with Jake or Chaz? Those are questions. I think this window is still absolutely open, but I do think that there are going to be some big questions answered in about 3 years when these contracts are up, and Kyle Tucker and Yordan Alvarez are due. We'll find out a lot about this organization and what they're going to do when we come to that pass.